Midweek Analysis.
Hey guys, this is a midweek analysis for February 10th of 2021. Okay, we'll start off with the Euro-USD pair. This is a monthly chart. We'll start off with a brief overview. Okay, so from this pivot to this pivot, this trend line right here was broken out roughly 6 months ago. And so we're long biased in the medium term. However, in the long term, this price action right here is very strong short. And so we're short bias in the long term, at least to this pivot low. Okay. All right, so let's go to entries. Okay, so this is a daily chart. Okay, we're talking about this weak short that formed right here. And so we're looking for a long right up to this pivot high. Yeah. Okay. Now some possible areas where price could bounce to go long. We were talking about this trend line from this pivot to this pivot. And price bounced off that pretty cleanly about 4 days ago. Okay. However, this is not a long entry for me yet. We still want price to respect this trend line nicely with compact price action. Okay. Now that could be on the 4-hour chart also. So let's go over to the 4-hour chart. Okay, so this is a 4-hour chart. So that long trend line level being roughly in this area, we want price to respect that on the 4-hour or the daily. Doesn't really matter. Okay. Now one other thing we're looking at, we're going back to the daily chart, is that if this trend line gets broken out right to this pivot, well, we could still have possible long entries below that. For example, from this pivot to this pivot, right? And the reason being is because we're talking about this HNS right here being fake. So fake HNSs typically don't go as target distance. So we're basically looking for a long entry from this neckline right here into this target area, because I'm thinking price will not reach that target area. Okay, so we'll have to see what happens with price on this. Okay, so let's go midweek price. All right, so this is a 4-hour chart. There was a short trade right here that formed a couple days ago. It hit that daily trend line we were talking about and bounced up. And it broke out of this. Let me go back to the daily chart. This downward trend line. Okay. Now, many people might be thinking this is very indicative of long momentum. However, yes, there is a little momentum long, but to me, this momentum long is not that strong. Okay, so we're still waiting for pullback down. So we could take it right back to that pivot high as a target. Okay. Okay, so let's go on to the Usdjpy. Oh, and please subscribe if you like these videos. And please push the like button. It will really help me out, guys. Thank you. Okay, so this is a monthly chart for the Usdjpy. Start off with a brief overview. Okay, so ultimately, we're targeting this pivot low at 101. But before that, I'm pretty sure we'll get a pullback, possibly to 107 and 109, then hit that target. So short term, we're long biased. Long term, we're short biased. Okay. Okay, let's go on to entries. Okay, we'll stay on this monthly chart. Okay, so we're talking about this trend line from this pivot to this pivot and how we want a price to respect that. Okay, at the time being, it is respecting it. But what we do want in the future is for price to respect this compact price action. Right, so again, this could be on the daily chart too, or the weekly chart. So that level, monthly level, being roughly in this area. So we want price to be like that. Okay. And simultaneously, we're also talking about on the lower time frames. This is the 4-hour chart. we wanted price to round out. Okay, and it did round out. Okay, so that's a good sign. Okay, so price started going up, and then I was talking about the first target. Okay, so this is back to a weekly chart. All right, the first target was going to be this gap level. So on the bottom end, it will be right here. So this gap level right here, right? And this top end gap level right here. So I was talking about taking targets, first targets at this level, and possibly let the rest ride up to 107 and possibly 109. Okay. Okay, moreover, we're also talking about how we want price to grunge through here like this, little by little, and then go to 107 and 109. Okay, because this gap level is very strong. Okay. Okay. Yeah, so let's talk about midweek price. This is a daily chart. I think 3 days ago, there was a short trade that formed, and it was weak. Okay, so if you took a little bit of profits in that gap level, then I think it would be okay to just see if it could go through there to 107. Okay, however, if you didn't take profits, well, price could still fall down here. It's very possible. Okay, because that gap level is very strong, and then respect that monthly trend line here and then go up again. That is very possible. Okay, so the bottom line is I took profits at that gap level and see what the rest will run. Okay, alrighty, so let's go on to the Audnzd pair. Oh, I just put out lesson 7 on my price action trading course. It's on how to effectively use trend lines for projections. Okay, so if you have time, please check that out. Okay, the Audnzd. This is a monthly chart. We'll start off with a brief overview. Okay, so there's a normal double bottom right here against a weak downward trend line. And so we're long bias in the long term to at least this trend line right here or this pivot high. However, according to recent price action, it's showing a lot of strength short. So this pullback may pull back a little bit more. So in the short term, I'm short biased. In the long term, I'm still long biased. Okay, so let's talk entries. Okay, so since we're in an overarching long trend still, we're taking very small targets if we're taking shorts, right? So this trend line from this pivot to this pivot is always going to be a target at a fundamental level. Okay? And a more aggressive target will be this pivot low right here. Okay, so if we're talking about entry short, one level we could be looking at is the level we're at right now. Okay, so this is gap level. So if you look at this gap right here, it's a very small gap. The level is going to be, give me a second here, from 1.0694 to 1.0709. Okay, so I'm looking for short trades in that level only down to this trend line. So again, very small targets. Okay, so let's go down to the 4-hour chart. Yeah, so we're right at that level right now, at that weekly gap level. So we'll see if a trade could form there for a small target, right? Really right down to that weekly trend line. Right here at 1.0628. Okay. Okay, so let's talk midweek price. Okay, we'll stay on this weekly chart. Okay, so this week, another long trade formed right here. Okay, which is going to give us our aggressive target to that pivot low, the stop loss low at this point. Okay, let's go down to the daily chart. The daily chart also had a long trade. And let's see on the 4-hour chart. Okay, so on the 4-hour chart, well, basically just price stopped out this last short trade that we had here. Okay, so again, we're looking for a possible entry short for a very small target. Really, we're at the level right now. So if a strong short trade forms in this area, I just might take that for a very small target. Okay. Okay, so that's it for this week's midweek analysis. I hope you guys have a great rest of the week, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye.